Why don't you start, Sam? You want to introduce yourself?
I sure can. Welcome, everybody. I'm Samantha Scherr with Movement Mortgage. I have been working with Movement for about 5 years, but have a collective about 15 years in the mortgage industry. Our slide cut something off. Oh no, there, Shannon made it clear. Okay, anyway, so I'm in the top 5% of loan originators at Movement, and I own my own house. I just sold our first house and got to purchase a new house this past August. So those of you who are on the call looking to buy a house this year, yes, it is a good time to buy. We could talk about that another time. But anyway, just a little bit about me. I love Belgian waffles and my kids. Not sure if I love my kids more than the Belgian waffles, but we could discuss that another time. Shannon.
Yes, hi, I'm Shannon Shue. I'm a real estate agent with Keller Williams. I just last year graduated to the top 1% of KW agents across the country. I own 9 units in terms of what I own, mostly in Los Angeles with 1 unit in Colorado. And I love Vietnamese spring rolls. And I really think the vision for the world, I believe, is to connect through vulnerability. So with that said, we are talking today about a book called Recession-Proof Real Estate Investing. And at the end of the session, we have 5 books that we're going to give away. And we will give it away to you. I think Sam's going to put write everyone's name on a piece of paper and put it in a metaphorical fishbowl and draw names. So, but we want to do it at the end so that, you know, anyone who leaves early, or you got to be present to win. And the book was very good for both of us. She and I both read it. We're giving you the highlights. We literally could not fit all of the information we wanted to in here. So we had to really pare down. So keep that in mind. All right, so our agenda for today. Sam, want to go over the agenda?
Sure. So we're going to do just a basic economics lesson. I know a lot of us know a lot of the terms and different things about you know, supply and demand and things like that, but it's always good to just have a general overview before you get a little bit deeper. So we'll talk about different cycles, and then Shannon's going to take us through understanding the phases of the different cycles and investment strategies based on where are we and in what cycle are we in right now. It's sometimes hard to even know.
Yeah. All right. So this is where we like to go around our Zoom room and have you introduce yourself. We'd love to hear your name, where you work or what do you do for work, and what you would like to learn today. Maybe one thing you'd like to learn today. Let's start with Mindy. Yeah, just unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I have a practice, private practice in Torrance and Santa Monica. Let's see, I've done a little bit of real estate investing, but not in California. And I'm just sort of, I don't know, debating and trying to figure out what I want to do. As far as, you know, one thought I had is I have kids and 2 kids in their early 20s. So I thought about helping them and get their first place. So I've thought about that, and I'm not sure exactly what I want to. I think I just want to learn more about investing in Los Angeles. I just haven't done that up to now, and I'm just, you know, curious about getting, you know, a smaller like 2 unit or 4 unit or something like that. And
all right,
you know, what you would have to put down and how much you would stand to, what your income would be. And it seems like it would be hard to make enough income to pay for the mortgage in LA, but I don't know, maybe there's places in LA where that's reasonable to do. I don't know. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks, Mindy, for joining us. Let's go to Samantha Allen, not Samantha Scherr.
Hi, Shannon. Hi, Sam. I'm Samantha Allen. I'm the Senior Transaction Manager for a real estate team here in LA, and I'm a big fan of Shannon and Sam. And I, want to stay in the conversation of investing. It's been a few years since I've done it. And so this was sort of perfect timing to get me back into that conversation and around people that are comfortable in that arena.
Great. Thank you, Samantha. Joy.
Hello. Well, I'm Joy Hartnett, and I'm not even sure if this is the right place for me to be today, but I thought I would just join and see what I can learn. Shannon, I see your name everywhere. You're good at advertising yourself. So I thought, okay, well, this Shannon Shue is offering a something I could learn from. So I'll just tune in and see if I can learn. I'm retired. I have I downsized from a 2-bedroom, 3-bath condo in Palms. Downsized because I'm on my teacher pension now, and downsized to a 1-bedroom, 1-bath in Inglewood. And it is a beautiful unit in a beautiful complex, walking distance to the Forum and the new stadium and everything. What I want to know, and I don't know if this will be answered today, but I think everything will help. What I want to know is, will it make sense for me to rent out this place, which I bought a year ago, live in a tiny apartment for a while, which I don't mind doing at all, to build up some income from this place, and I have some thoughts down the line about possibly buying a larger place in the future, or maybe buying another small unit and have that additional income. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm 70 in 3 years, I'll start taking my Social Security, but that's not going to add up enough either, because teachers' Social Security is offset by the government if you have a state teacher pension.
Correct.
So I'm just trying to figure out how to make it all work. I don't want to outlive my savings. I have some savings, but I can't draw down from it forever. So, and unfortunately, I have very good genes. My mother lived to 102. I say unfortunately because I don't have enough savings to draw down for that long. So she had me, but I don't have anyone. So I'm just trying to find out how to make it work. It seemed to me like turning my present condo into a rental might be a good way to increase my income without having to get another full-time job. I worked for so long. I just don't want to work again.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we can sidebar a little bit, Joy, afterwards, but I understand what you're going after. And so today will be a big picture, and then can drill down some more afterwards. Maybe
Okay.
more one-on-one. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Yeah. David?
Hi, I'm David. I'm calling from, I'm calling from San Jose Bay Area. Expensive. Prior to moving up here, I actually spent about 3-4 years in LA, and now I'm looking to see if there are opportunities to reinvest back into LA. Hopefully, looking specifically into the house hacking space, given that there are flexibilities for me to move around coming up. So
Great. Yeah, thanks for coming back, David. Brant.
Hi, I'm Brant Cantor. I'm actually an agent myself. I work at Lotus, but I met Shannon at Keller Williams and Sam at Keller Williams. And I'm here to just keep sharpening the sword so I can talk to my clients better and then hopefully buy something myself by the end of the year.
Fantastic. All right. Neil, if you're around, do you want to unmute?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Neil.
Okay,
Good to hear
hi,
you.
how you doing, Shannon? Yeah, yeah, basically, Shannon recently sold a place of mine. I have quite a bit of, well, I have some money from investments that I've made over the years, so I'm kind of looking to invest. I came onto this because I'm kind of wondering if the Federal Reserve is helping keep some of the inventory low in real estate. And I'm also kind of wondering if at this point with the interest rate so low, if it might be better to borrow rather than use my own cash to purchase a place. I'm also looking to upgrade my house, and I'm also retired. Yeah, I think with Joy, if you're eligible for Social Security in the future, you might want to start factoring that into your future plans. And Dave, in San Francisco, I think the prices are really dropping right now because it's becoming basically a homeless person's paradise. Okay, so that's basically pretty much what I'm here for.
I mean, I wish that prices would drop. Those drops are from $2 million to $1.5 million.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I mean, it doesn't help me at all.
Rates are at an all-time low, though.
That's
That
true.
Oh, yeah,
I will
yeah, yeah.
second. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Neil, for coming. I think you'll find this really good top-down view today, Neil, and it's always good to connect with you. It's always fun. We chat a lot about lots of different economic perspectives. Our last person is, I hope I'm not going to ruin your name. Is it Aurelia?
Yes, you said it correctly. But my name is Aurelia. I am currently a full-time property manager for affordable housing. And I am an agent with Keller Williams at Silicon. What I plan on, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. What I would like to learn for today, a little bit of obviously the investing part, because I mean, I have been saving, so I'm looking to either purchase my own place or even maybe a multi-unit. So I just want to know that how that process goes. I mean, obviously escrow and all that, but like the whole loans and situations like that, like all that, the whole process.
I can definitely help you, Aurelia. I used to be the in-house lender for Keller Silicon Beach, so I'm more than happy to take you through the process of what that is at some other point as well. And we usually cover that on our classes. This time we're doing, well, we've started a book club, Shannon and I. At the moment, we're the only two members, but we wanted to share with all of you what we have learned in this book. And so we'll keep this class about investing and sort of what Jay Scott, our author, is saying about what to expect. But in future classes, for sure, all of you will be discussing more about, you know, what payments, if it makes sense, what you should buy, things like that. But anyway, in the process. So who is our author, Jay Scott? You guys, if anybody has been on Bigger Pockets, listening to Bigger Pockets, you've probably heard of Jay Scott. He is the author of 4 books on real estate investing. And since 2008, he and his wife have held more than $60 million of property together around the US. So the book is really interesting. In the first chapter, it talks about how he's like in this lockdown. So this is a very recently published book in March. And what are we going to do now, right? What do we expect for housing and the economy as a whole? So he thinks back a lot to, you know, what happened during the last recession. And so many people that I talked to before this all happened, before COVID, they were like, okay, so when's the next housing bubble? You know, when are prices going to drop? Now we're pretty much a year into this. And for the realtors on the call, have prices dropped?
No.
No. So what would most people think is going to happen? So the first thing that Jay Scott does is he takes us through the different economic cycles. So Shannon, would you mind going to the next page? Whoops. The one before that, please.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. So basically he said, and I was actually in a meeting once several years ago when I used to work for Countrywide, and the CEO, Angelo Mazzillo, who some of you may remember as a name of the past, who may have caused the mortgage meltdown for the last recession, was the one thing we can count on is change. Change is always going to happen. We're never going to be in one economic cycle in one spot at any one time. We're always moving along. We never necessarily know where we are in a cycle. People are going to agree and disagree. So you might hear at one point you might hear, oh no, we're in a recession. People might say, oh no, we're past the recession, or we're just beginning in the recession. So where are we, right? Nobody should come out to say we're actually in a recession yet, but we all know that we are. Anyways, what we just need to do as investors is to embrace this change and to be flexible with things. Next slide, please.
Oh, wait, can I just say one thing about this? And this goes for everyone here and everyone you kind of touch and talk to about real estate. Everyone has a deal that they were able to get at some time in their history that just seems like, wow, how did you get that? And then we think we need to look for that deal, but we're not in that market. So a lot of times when I consult with investors or people wanting to start investing because they own a little bit, they own their own home or they want to start, they're looking for a deal that their dad got, 15 years ago, or they're looking for a deal that they heard about like on Bigger Pockets. Like, how can I find that deal? The thing is, that deal has sailed. And so every time you look at a new property or opportunity, you have to look at it in relation to where we are in today's market. So I'm just going to say that. So change is always, always happening.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't even know, we'll talk about in the next slide, that we're at the top of the cycle or at the bottom of the cycle until it's already passed, right? So just to keep that in mind. So basically, basic economics, everybody understands, which I'm sure it's just good to think about it this way, I think. You have different transactions, right? So I'm a mortgage lender and I have several transactions every month. And as I sell more loans, right? And maybe the interest rates go up, then I don't have as many loans that I close, right? And then we could talk about the whole market or the whole industry of the mortgage industry, what's going on there. And then there's several other industries, right? And then all together, all of those industries, all of those transactions within each industry is considered the entire economy. So would you go to the next slide, Shannon? And I'm sure you guys have seen this time and time again, right? The cycle goes up and it goes down and it goes up and it goes down, and the economy gets strong and then it gets weak again, and then it gets strong and it gets weak again. And it's going to continue this way. Keep going, Shannon.
Okay, and this is one of my favorite slides that I saw you put in here. And so I want to just say the one thing that I think that the actual trajectory should be going up. So actually we always are going up and down, but we're always on an upward trajectory. This is flat. So I want you to think about if this were just kind of tilted at a little bit more of a diagonal, that yes, we go up and down, but overall, your overall curve over time is always up. Same thing with the stock market. You can see the little teeny bobbles, but the little teeny bobbles are always kind of moving in the upward trajectory like this. The other thing that, discussed in the book is peak to valley. This is 7 to 9 years. Peak to peak, which is top here to top here, should be about 18 years, right? And if we use this as like the 2009 bust or 2008, 2009 bust to the top of where we are today, 2009 was 11 years ago. So we are in like outer space on some level. If you look at a 9-year cycle, we have beat all odds. So we are overdue for a correction, and we will talk about that correction today.
Okay, so what drives these cycles? And I'm sure a lot of you have heard about inflation and what happens, right? So if we think back to 2010, right, after the market crash, businesses started to generate more profits, hire more people, then unemployment started to level off, right? Then as employers start to make more money and Americans go out and spend more, we're in an economic boom. Great, right? This is exciting. People start to buy more things. those manufacturers have to create more factories and hire more workers, even so, more equipment. So whatever we used to buy now costs more, right? And that's what's considered inflation. So whatever that carton of milk that you purchased last week for, you know, $4 or $5 might be a little bit more now, right? Because the demand is so high. And I'm sure you guys, we can all think back very, very recently to the toilet paper crisis. So anyway, to combat inflation, what does the government do? They try to encourage Americans to spend less. So we're going to go to the next slide. So how do they encourage us to spend less when there's inflation? They actually increase interest rates. And most recently, last March, right as everything was happening with the virus, I'm sure all of you heard the big news last year when the Fed dropped interest rates. Now, the reason why they decreased the interest rates, so now we're at the bottom of the trough here, is because they wanted to encourage people to continue to invest, right? And so when they decreased the interest rate by 3%, or they said, oh, they dropped interest rates to 0, that's really just the bank-to-bank lending rate was 0. It didn't necessarily mean that you could go out and get a new house with a 0% mortgage rate. Rates dropped though, because at the beginning of 2020, rates were in the 4%, almost at 4, maybe just under 4. Some clients had a little over 4%. And then all of a sudden overnight, we were in the 3s. And now I'm sure many of you are hearing, especially those of you who own homes now, are seeing interest rates in the low 2% range. Now, just a little sidebar, those 2.2% interest rate flyers you're seeing in the mail usually come with points. I just got off the phone with someone just before I got on the call who said he was trying to refinance with Quicken, and he was given a rate of 2.6, but with $12,000 of costs. That's ridiculous to pay so much for a refinance. So they don't put that in the tiny writing below. Mm-hmm. But anyways, rates dropped, and that encouraged people to continue to buy houses, to refinance, to save money month over month, right? And so that hopefully will soften the drop and the recession that we're in. If you look at the top of the curve, when exactly, thanks Shannon, when we're in a period of economic growth, so just before the pandemic hit, interest rates were higher, and the Fed had increased the prime rate in 2019, I want to say 3 or 4 times, because they thought, okay, we're going to just increase these rates, we're going to slow down spending, we're going to encourage Americans to invest money in other things, right? They make more money on their CDs at that time. But if they want to buy a house, they may not be able to buy as much of a house as they could have before, because now interest rates are higher. So it starts that slowdown. And then with the pandemic that we're in, that is causing us to be in a recession, right? Businesses are closing and whatnot. And so how much further can the Fed decrease rates to promote the recovery? Well, they've decreased them enough. So now we have so much pent-up demand from buyers to buy a house at this moment, if we just talk about real estate, but because the interest rates are so low. So does it make sense to get a loan right now? Those of you who were asking on the phone or on our call earlier, yes, because the interest rates are so low. Will they go lower? Possibly. Sometimes after a recession, rates go down even further to promote more growth. So it may go down a little bit lower, but I don't see it getting into the negative territory, anything like that. But definitely money is so cheap right now. Shannon, was there anything else that you wanted to add in on this slide?
No, I think you did a great job. That's my bottom line number is like, money is so cheap right now. Just borrow it.
Just get some money. Yeah, I mean, literally.
And borrow for things that will increase in value. Not cars don't increase in value.
Right.
So maybe take a loan anyway, so you don't have to use your own cash. Use that cash to buy real estate.
And buy a house, yes. Yeah. All right, so putting some of these cycles together, what Shannon was saying too previously, where we were in the time frames, right, when things usually happen is usually each cycle is about 18 years. So there's something that's called deleveraging. So as those businesses, let's say, were buying more equipment, buying more factories, spending more money, and that inflation was happening, at the same time, those businesses are taking on more debt. And Americans are known to take on lots of debt, just personal debt, right? You should see the amount of student loans and things like that that I see come through my desk. People are always taking on debt. And as the debt increases, as Shannon was saying, because that curve continues to go up a little bit, right? It's not flat, so it doesn't go up and down. It does go all the way up as debt increases. All of a sudden, there's just too much debt that any American can handle, so they file bankruptcy. Or as an economy, there's a deleveraging. So all of a sudden, that trough goes much lower, right? Until we start to recover again. And what they say is 2008, we didn't have as much of a downturn as we thought. We recovered pretty quickly. So is that as low as we're going to go, or are we going to drop even further after this recession? Similarly, there's the real estate cycle. As we know, investors want to buy property, especially right now when rates are so low. But if they're not able to get, if there's no inventory and therefore the properties are bid up in price, it doesn't make sense many times for investors to start buying those houses because they just are not going to get the return that they're looking for. So they start to not purchase as much. And so then maybe other people may not do the same. So then we see that cycle where all of a sudden prices drop because buyers are so nervous of what's going to happen. So the demand goes way down, the supply goes up, right? And then prices come down with it. For those of the realtors that are on this call, I speak to many of you on a daily basis. What's happening right now, prices have not dropped. Inventory is still really slim. Anyway, the next part Shannon's going to talk about is the expansion and the different phases of each of these cycles. And so what happens between those two peaks that we were talking about at the beginning.
Yeah. Okay. So in the book, economists, and Jay Scott is actually respected in the real estate world as a very thoughtful and analytical real estate economist. So he's written multiple books. This one in particular we chose because it's very recently published. It was published sort of before the pandemic, but then he made some revisions prior to going to press on it in March of 2020 in order to include some of but he had no idea what sort of pandemic predictions there would be. But he tried to include just enough in there to make you feel like it had spoken to the 2020 market. He breaks it down into 4 phases of recovery. These are his 4 phases. So if you study real estate economics and you look at sort of how people define phases, there might be 5, there might be 3. It's commonly between 3 to 5 different phases, depending on the economist who's giving you that information. So I'm going to go through his 4, and I like his 4. The first phase of what he calls the 4 phases of recovery is the expansion phase. And that's characterized by buyer demand increases. So job growth is strong, inventory is short, prices increase, and rental vacancies are low, right? And so as a result, a lot of times during that period, those with money and those making more money get into real estate, right? So at the end of the 4 phases, when I introduce this, I'd love for you to tell me in the chat where you think we are, and I'm going to tell you it's a teeny bit of a trick question, but I'd like you to think, like, of the 4 phases, where do you think we are according to his definitions? So in this expansion phase, I think what's common for today's market is the buyer demand has definitely increased. Inventory is short, definitely in the single family market, it's ridiculously short. We are not short in inventory in commercial. To give you an example, in Venice, 2020, they average 130 to 140 commercial transactions in Venice Beach, California. Last year in 2020, they had 21. So 21 commercial transactions when on average for the last 9 years, they've had 130 to 140 transactions. That's a problem. So nobody wanted to buy retail, office, or large apartments, right? So, or mixed use. 21 transactions. I about fell over when I saw that statistic. Okay, next phase. He calls it the peak phase. And he says in the peak phase, it's really your shortest phase. when you look at all of the phases put together. These are when things start to get a little higher days on market, the strong economy, so interest rates do go up to hold down inflation. And we saw that in the curve that Samantha showed us about 2 slides ago. New construction continues to boom, inventory exceeds demand. And that's a lot of times because you're whipside, which means that we thought we were just cranking up towards this, like everybody's making money, everybody's buying, everybody's selling, everybody gets a lot. And then you're on the backside and you're on kind of at that peak where you're going to turn over. And the builders haven't finished building the project when they commandeered all the money when it was really good. And then the project's finished and now it's on the other side of the peak, right? The economy starts to crank under the weight of these. That's really good. I didn't write the notes very well there. Under the weight of prices declining. I put the word economy twice. So it really starts to kind of weigh down and really push down and crank downward. When I say crank, downward onto the market. The results, the market turns from good to bad. It's the shortest phase in the time of his 4 phases that he describes. And an example would be in 2018 to 2019, which was not too long ago. If you look now, there are some homes that people bought in 2018 that they're selling for maybe 2 or 3% more than what they bought in 2018. So they're not selling it for too much more. I mean, 3% is barely hitting inflation. So they're selling it for a little more than what they bought it for. Depending on the type of asset you sell in Los Angeles, it may only be equal to where you were in 2018 and 2019. So I'm giving you lots of hints from our end of the 4 phases. The next phase is the recession phase. And in the recession phase, he characterizes it as there's pretty general economic turmoil throughout, high unemployment, tightened credit, and reduced wages. The results are you will have increases in foreclosures and short sales, increased vacancy, reducing rents, and new construction stops or slows. So I'm going to tell you, like, I'm a landlord. I had 3 vacancies come up in the last 3 months. And here are the reasons why I had vacancies. I had one tenant, 3 guys, they were young, like 26 to 29 years old. One of them lost his job, but the other 2 had jobs. So they managed to kind of get all the way to the end of the year. And they're like, Shannon, we don't want to renew our lease. So I didn't lose any money, thankfully, but one of them lost his job. And then at the very tail end, when they had already decided they were going to leave, another one lost his job. So I was like, okay, so unemployment goes up, right? It's affecting my tenants. Did it affect my bottom line? No, they decided not to renew the lease. They paid till the end of the lease. But that's a vacancy. And I am now reducing the rent 8% in order to get another good tenant in there. I'm not going to rent it at what I rented it for in 2019. I'm not going to get that rent. So this characterizes a little bit of my portfolio. I had another tenant leave. Both of them make very good money, but they can go remote. They can live anywhere, right? And so they decided to buy in Palm Springs because they couldn't afford Los Angeles. They couldn't quite make enough to afford what they wanted, and they wanted to buy my house. So they bought instead in Palm Springs for $465. And here they were approved to $775, and they didn't like anything in their price range. So now they left. And so that's a different scenario. They make good money. They couldn't afford anything above $800. So they left. And then my other unit, it was an Airbnb unit, which is different story altogether, but short-term rental, I'm trying to exit.
A lot of my buyers that come through to me to get financing are looking in the outskirts of LA. So for those of you who are thinking maybe I should invest, that's what a lot of people are doing. I just spoke to one of my clients who purchased a property in Joshua Tree I think she closed in April or May. And I think her payment is about $1,000, maybe $1,200 a month total for this little house. And she's had it on Airbnb ever since then, making $8,000 a month. So it's interesting, right? People want to get out of LA. Maybe they're not quite ready to buy. So they're going to go rent out of the city where my client is just making bank on this place. And I see there, Shannon, Some of the results of being in a recession are foreclosures, maybe credit wasn't being, tightening of credit. So at the beginning, it's kind of interesting to figure out where we are because I don't really know where we are either. But
maybe the fourth one will apply, Samantha.
Maybe it will help me. But what I was going to say is, right when COVID began, I'm sure Bran and Samantha and Shannon were getting my videos like twice a week. It'd be like, oh God, we lost this program. Oh, we lost that program, right? We can't do jumbos. We couldn't do loans for a while that were over the conforming loan limit, which at the time was $765,000. So if you needed a loan for more, the investors shut it down. For a few weeks, we had no loans over that amount. Then they started to bring them back a little bit. And now we're sort of back to where we were. We don't have all of the programs, like a bank statement loan for a self-employed buyer is really kind of hard to find. We do have it. It just requires a little bit more than it used to. But it's interesting because I saw just between, the 9 months that we've sort of been in this, almost 10 months, that credit tightened, then loosened a little bit, and is almost looking like it's going to loosen some more. So that's why it's hard for me to tell.
Yeah. And the other thing that I think is a big challenge is reduced wages. One of the things, if you look at inflation over the last, and Jay Scott says this in the book, he's like, look at inflation in the last 10 years and wages haven't really increased. So we can't afford more today than we could 10 years ago. Most people are struggling under the same weight with higher prices. So you have to do more with less, technically, because inflation has affected your buying power. Okay, last phase is the recovery phase. And so he defines the recovery phase as turning around the recession, which we just came out of the last slide, not now. Real estate prices plateau, okay? Government reduces interest rates. New construction doesn't pick up until credit is eased, because new construction, when you spec build, when you speculate on building, everybody gets conservative, like, oh, I'm not going to give money to that new home development. I'd rather give it to something a little bit more safe. Bonds, like, a totally different class of investing. The results are you'll see an upswing in sales as inventory and sales pick up. So this is really where it, everyone begins to crank. Most of the time, when I speak to real estate investors and they want to start getting into the market, they usually talk to me, and then 2 years later they're pulling a trigger. And then actually we may not be in the same market when we first spoke, right? And so I'm kind of interested, and maybe you guys I'm going to end this section just wondering if you guys want to type into the chat. Tell me, like, what phase do you think we're in? Are we in recovery? Are we in recession? Are we in peak? Or are we in expansion? I give you guys a second to go type that in the chat. Humor me for a minute. And stick your neck out there if you're like, I'm not sure. Or like, yeah, I feel the same way.
Can you show all four next to each other?
Unfortunately, I didn't make a slide because there were too many words for each one.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So I see peak, recession. So we have recovery. Oops. Sorry, guys. Went too fast. Recovery, recession, peak, phase, and expansion. So I actually don't know the right answer. And even I think we're potentially in some sort of recession phase, but also we are not in, I hesitate to say we're in peak, but we could be in expansion too, because
wait, stay on expansion for a second. Buyer demand. So we have, it's like, that's why it's so hard, because we have a little bit of each going on, right? Because job growth, I don't think is strong. Buyer demand is very high.
Yes.
Prices increase, rental vacancies are low.
Rental vacancies are high.
Right. So yeah, I think we're past the expansion. I don't think we're in recovery. So I think we're still somewhere between peak and recession, maybe kind of still falling like this, starting to get, right? Maybe at the top.
And then this is, so I'll end on this because the end slide is, we're going to go around the room, kind of share with us one thing you learned. I think we are between peak and recession, but we have some things that are lending to expansion. And the reason it's so weird is because it was a pandemic that caused the economic pressure. And we, you know, now we are using interest rates to increase buying power. Inventory in some categories of real estate in Los Angeles, we've got plenty of. A home above $5 million, plenty. You're in a buyer's market. A home under $2 million, not so many homes. I mean, homes under $1 million, they go in less than 14 days. Condos are a mixed bag. It's a great way to get into the market, but there's no outdoor space and people are looking for outdoor space. Commercial is absolutely struggling right now. Retail and office space, nobody really wants it. So there are opportunities there, though. There's opportunities.
Shannon, wait. What about units? I want you to talk about units.
Oh, yes. So units are kind of in this funny middle place. So affordable units, like you maybe get a triplex for 900,000 or 1.1 million in Los Angeles. It's not going to cash flow great, but the challenge is we have an eviction freeze here. So we can't get the tenants out, even if it's for legitimate reasons, like they're cooking methamphetamines in the garage, or, you know, they haven't paid their rent in 6 months, even if it's related to COVID. There comes a point at which the pressure on the landlord is too much. But you can't even get a court. You can't even go to eviction court for COVID-related economic reasons. It's even difficult to get the methamphetamines person in the court because nobody wants to go to court because you have to appear, more people have to congregate. And it's like, I'd rather just not have any more court cases like that. So that's putting pressure on landlords. They want to get out of they want to sell it, but then I as an investor, I'm like, wow, I've got some problems here. Like I want this amount of a discount and I have to inherit your non-paying rent and your non-paying tenant on 1 out of the 3 units. I don't know that man, this isn't going to pencil out. So I've got to lower. And then like, we won't let it go for that much. So now the conversation is at a standstill when it comes to multi-units here. So they are selling, because either the owner has to really get involved and make that work for the buyer, or it doesn't work and then it just sits on the market. So, all right. Let's go around the room and I'll let you guys popcorn because you guys can decide, you know, who wants to. We'd love it if everyone were to share what you learned. One thing you learned from our presentation. It just helps us understand if we conveyed it well enough. Samantha.
Hi. So this is amazing, and this is why I was here, because I know you ladies are just superstars in what you do. I loved the statement, and I wrote it twice. Money is so cheap now. Use it for things that will increase in value. Like that is just brilliant, and I'm gonna probably print that and put that up. And you know, Shannon, you and I can talk on a offline, but yeah, I mean, I would love to jump on it because I know there's opportunities right now, and they may not be in LA. And if something were in LA, Shannon, can you still help us?
Yes, of course. I would love to. It's my favorite.
Because you have a referral. You can refer as well, right?
Absolutely.
That's the reason I ask. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to share one thing they learned? We'd love the feedback.
Yeah, I like the, you know, so one of the reasons I'm here too is just to continue. It just helps to spackle all the different things together from different voices. But even just something simple like tightening of credit connected with me as just meaning less loan products. But that's just something like that. I know my clients hear tightening of credit on television, and I don't think people fully realize that loans are sort of like any other retail product, and there's tons of them on the shelves. I think it's like, oh, the Fed said this and that's a loan, but there's hundreds of different cartons of milk. So anything just to help my buyers understand why they're a freelance person and they might be rich and not be able to get a loan, and someone else works at a different job that's a steady W-2 and they're sitting pretty right now, or maybe we've moved past that, but that was very helpful.
No, it's still a problem, Brant. with lending right now to people who are in entertainment and receive several W-2s. They have several different projects per year, maybe every week or every day they're on a different project. Those people right now are having a tough time buying a house. So they will need a cosigner. A lot of times a cosigner is a great idea. Even like, I think Melinda was saying that she'd maybe co-sign for her kids, or if you are self-employed and you're not going to show a lot of income for 2020, the way that underwriting has to look at 2020, they actually have to assume that 2020 isn't just an off year and you're going to just make like you did in 18 and 19 for 2021, because we're still in this, guys, and we're still in this for a long haul. So it's hard for an underwriter to determine how much income you're going to make. So what they do is they just take how much did they make in 2020? How much did they make so far year to date in 2021? And so then we're going to be doing an average over that amount of months. And if that income can support the payment, then we're good, right? And hopefully that person continues to make great money and isn't shut down from work or anything this year or in years to come. But we have to look at sort of the lowest common denominator. What was their, worst year so far, and can that support the payment?
Yeah. Anybody else want to share one thing they learned? We'd love the feedback.
Well, this reinforced the things I've already learned in the past from different sources about how the economy works. It's just good to hear it again and to reinforce for me my sense of where we are on this. That was really helpful. And it's interesting, as you, Shannon, mentioned the from the top of a peak to the bottom is 7 to 9 years, and from peak to peak is 18 years. That's almost exactly the figures from the last condo I owned, the one I sold to buy this one. So that was kind of, it seemed like you had telepathy about that, because I thought, oh, that's right. That's right.
It's just an average, Joy.
Yeah. No, I realized that, but it was funny because it really was right.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, that just gives me a sense of things as I kind of sit with this question about renting my place out and so forth. It gives me a sense also of I don't have to do anything right now, like something's going to change next week, so I'm under big pressure to make this decision right now, because there are some things I want to do in here first in my new place. So I'll be able to do that as I kind of watch the market. Just as a side note, really my ultimate goal is to move to Oakland, California, which is where I was born and raised, although I've been working in LA for 40 years now. And I love it here. I have a life in LA, but I also want to return to Oakland. And so by using Zillow and whatever, I've been watching the market in Oakland, and it's a little different from here, a kind of a micro market for the area that I'm looking at near Lake Merritt, if that means anything to you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so Samantha knows Lake Merritt. You're nodding. So
I was just there. I was there once before the lockdown. It was really lively. The busy side of Lake Merritt. It's beautiful out there right now. It's a lot of traffic. Yep.
Yeah. Well,
I want
that's
to check the crime statistics, because the police force has had some problems.
Oh, it's the same as here.
Yeah,
I mean, I have a
that's
friend
true.
up there who
LAPD is
sends
really
me
bad.
all the
Yeah.
doom and gloom.
There was like one big underpass, and yes, kind of a shanty town situation there. Yes, but there are nestled within or next to it are cute neighborhoods.
Yeah. No, I'm keeping an eye on that. And thank you though. I'm watching the crime in Oakland. I follow particular condos in Oakland and have watched them sit on the market for a very long time. They're on the market 20 days, then 60 days, and whatever. The price has dropped a couple times. I've been watching that, as well as watching things around here in the West LA. It's interesting though, they are a little different. It seems a little worse there
Right.
market-wise.
Okay.
So anyway, thank you for this. It's been very encouraging.
Great, Joy. I'm glad. So we're gonna wrap it up. We like to wrap it up with just a little bit of time for Q&A. But before we do the Q&A, I'm gonna let Sam do the raffle. And while whatever you need to do to prep for that, Sam, I'm gonna just say the last.
My paper's right here.
Oh, okay. Wait. And the last slide is that every third Thursday for the rest of the year, we will be having these workshops that we do virtually. The next one, we're gonna buy you lunch. So we did this last time at work. David, you were there. It worked out really nicely. So we may do Chipotle. I don't know. Sam and I haven't discussed where because you live in the Bay Area. We needed to find like someone that delivers farther. But we're going to provide lunch.
Oh, no, it's okay. Next time I join, I'll be in LA, so.
Oh, okay. So we'll do a market update on Los Angeles. So what's going on in the real estate market here? Where is it just flying off the shelf and where is it slowing down a little bit? Okay, Sam, time for raffle time.
All right, great. Too bad my little girls are at school, although that's a really good thing. So otherwise they'd have fun trying to pick who's gonna win. All right, so my first winner is Joy.
Woo!
Yay!
Thank you.
Joy gets a book. Who else gets a book? My next winner is Mindy. She's still on? She's still on. Okay. And then I have, Neil.
Neil, are you still here?
We're doing
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Brant.
Yay!
And let's see who's the last one. David.
All right.
All right. We got 5.
We got 5. Sam is going to help you get that book, and we will give you.
And you can have it in audio or a hard cover copy, or soft cover, I guess, paperback. So I'll be in touch with all you guys so I can get your addresses and we'll send it over to you or figure out how you want it. Okay?
Thank you.
Now's our Q&A, the last 5 minutes Q&A. Does anybody have any questions for us?
Yeah, Sam, I have a question.
Okay, yeah, hey Neil.
Yeah, I was wondering how much does this loan forbearance and the Fed's loosening of their investment in commercial paper affect the inventory that's being allowed to, or that people are going to have to eventually let go of? You see a lot of that, or is it just all buyers and a shortage of houses?
I'm curious, Sam, what you think, but can I give my 2 cents?
Please.
So I think with a lot of the forbearance, if forbearance is leading to foreclosure or they're just too far behind, I think that we're going to see a ton of loan mods in 2021. And I think the loan modifications will mean that we won't even see that inventory touch the market. And I think we'll only see the property touching the market where the loan modification absolutely can't make any sense. And when they offer loan mods, they offer up to a 40-year loan to remod all of what you owe. So, I mean, they're going to lower the payment hugely from if you had, 22 years left on, and then they put you on a 40 and, you lost your job, but you make a little bit of money here and there. I mean, Neil, they're going to do everything they can to make sure the house doesn't have to go to market so that they
don't want to sell your house. They
don't want to sell your house. Yeah.
Okay.
The forbearance, I've seen a lot of people who took advantage of the forbearance just because they still had jobs, but why not? Everybody's student loans have been on forbearance unless you choose otherwise. That was just sort of a blanket that happened at the beginning of COVID. So nobody's needed to pay their student loans. For those people who went on forbearance just because and now want to refinance, there's some new rules about that where they have to pay off whatever they did skip, right? And then show 3 months of payments on time, and then they can qualify for a new mortgage. So I think the forbearance will maybe affect people in a little ways, just if they were planning to refinance. But I think Shannon has really hit the, hit it right on the head, that these loan mods are going to probably start happening more and more. And unlike the last recession, that was the housing market burst, right? People have so much equity in their homes.
Yeah.
So the equity there, I think, is going to prevent the foreclosures from happening and entice the loan mods to continue happening. Because prior to 2010, I was doing loans, 100% loans. We were doing negative amortization loans when people actually ended up owing more than the house was worth, and they walked away because it didn't make any sense. And that's what foreclosures are there for, right? It protects actually a lot of Americans. But now, because the lending practices got so tightened after 2010, and most people have to verify everything and almost give up their firstborn child for a loan, it actually builds a much stronger portfolio of borrowers with a lot more equity in their homes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, when you were talking about how the process of the amount of loans that were being offered suddenly loosened up, I was kind of wondering if that had anything to do with what you just said. So, okay, thank you.
I think they're loosening just because they want to try to entice more buyers, right, to the market. Some great first-time home buyer programs out there and things if you haven't owned anything in the last 3 years. But you still have to qualify in and out.
Yeah, well, they're saying, I forgot how many thousands of businesses are closing every day we stay in lockdown. So I'm kind of, I wasn't really sure if I should try to wait it out before I started putting more money back into it, or if I should just try to look for something right now. And there are good deals. I'm definitely going to start looking in Venice now.
For commercial.
Yes, or mixed use.
Mixed use and commercial, mostly not residential.
Okay.
I mean, even those properties, I mean, it's Venice. You're not going to get it for under $1 million.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking like
I know.
$15 million minimums.
Yeah, I mean, the work from home thing is good, but there is a preference to people that are closer to headquarters in most companies because it's usually part of the corporate culture. So I think I just was on another conference and they said something like 80% of the jobs that pay over 100,000 can be done remotely, but only 10% of jobs at 40,000 can be done remotely. So
yeah,
I don't think this is, I kind of think people are going to have to go to work pretty soon at some point. Not as many as what there was before, but I don't think it's going to go away as fast as a lot of people may be thinking.
Right. Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
It's one. I always like to make sure we kind of start and end at a time. Sam and I will stick around for a few minutes if you guys want to stay and chat for any reason. And then once the last person leaves the room,
then we're out of here.
Thank you. That was really great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank
you, ladies. That was awesome.
Guys.
That was awesome.
Thanks a
Miss you
lot.
guys.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Bye.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Don't forget my book.
We will, Neil.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Aurelia. Nice to meet you.
Hey, Aurelia.
Bye. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
All right. I think that was really great.
That was an amazing one. I mean, Sam, you know what the best part about using the book club part is? Well, first of all, they didn't read the book, but this
you
next
want
book
to
club.
stop the recording, by the way, or you'll cut it.
I usually just cut it.